across the Rapidan here. And by early afternoon, they're going to be at Chancellorsville Inn, that vital nexus of roads where we'll stop after we leave here. The Corps, commanded by General Slocum in the lead, the 12th Corps, followed by Oliver Otis Howard's 11th Corps, will cross the Germanna Ford. And Slocum will arrive at the Chancellorsville crossroads in the early afternoon at the same time that General Meade is, and they're going to be waiting for General Hooker to come up to take command personally. General Howard will halt well to the west of the Chancellorsville intersection in the area of the Tally Farm on the Orange Turnpike, one of the two parallel roads that run east and west and are congruent from the Chancellorsville intersection to Wilderness Chapel. They're congruent. They run from east and Fredericksburg west to Orange Courthouse. So, and meanwhile, the vanguard of General Couch's Second Corps, if something happens to General Hooker and he's killed, wounded, or disabled, Couch will take command of the Army. It's important remembering that. It's going to be very important tomorrow. Not going to be very important today. And Couch, with two of his divisions, will have reached U.S. Ford, a mile below the confluence of the two rivers, lay their ponton bridges, and are ready to cross at U.S. Ford at daybreak on the morning of the 1st. Now the other Union troops, where are they? We have General Reynolds is back on the north side of the Rappahannock River at Franklin's Crossing, and General Sedgwick, like he will be throughout the campaign until the evening of the 4th, will be south of the Rappahannock. General Sickles, commanding the 3rd Corps, the only non-West Pointer, and a man that gets along well with General Hooker. Their morals are somewhat the same. They like women. Their headquarters are rather interesting people behind. And Sickles has another problem, which Meade detests him for. Meade looks at Sickles, which is more important to Gettysburg than here. He looks at Sickles just as most of you people, and particularly the women, look at O.J. Simpson. He used the system to get away with murder. He had killed Barton Key and escaped any punishment by the plea of temporary insanity, and then forgave his wife and took her back after he had killed Key in cold blood. So it's in Meade's mind, but it becomes far more important at Gettysburg, because Meade is going to despise Hooker both morally and his ability as a soldier. And when you don't like anybody morally, you don't communicate with him, which is bad when you're in command of an army, not communicating with a person because you don't like him. When you deal with him through your son, but you'll find out much more important at Gettysburg than here. And as I say, Couch. Now you may have seen the Civil War. And in the Civil War, they keep referring to General Couch as General Cooch. And about a month after that, I had his granddaughter on there, and she informed me rather incessantly, rather vociferously, since she saw me in the Civil War. She said, "Our name is Couch. We're not Cooches." So I don't know why the producer of Civil War insisted on making a point that he was General Cooch, not General Couch. So Couch will leave one of his divisions down at Falmouth, and we'll meet him today when we do the Battle of Salem Church. And Sickles' division also is moving from down at Franklin's Crossing, never having crossed the river there, moving up to join to cross the Rappahannock at U.S. Ford. So by mid-morning on the 2nd, more than 60% of Hooker's army will be in and around Chancellorsville. So this, right now, everything is going the way General Hooker wanted. Now, what is Lee doing? He is pinned in position. He doesn't know whether those people at Fredericksburg are going to attack him, or these people up here are the worst threat. And Lee is not going to decide that these people up at Chancellorsville are the threat, are the danger. The people down with Sedgwick are no threat. They're a decoy. So Lee is going to operate on the night of the 1st. On the night of the when the 30th becomes the 1st. When the Union cross here, there's only one Confederate brigade at Chancellorsville. That's the brigade commanded by Billy Mahone, backstopped up by Colonel Posey. And they will abandon Chancellorsville intersection and warning Lee that the enemy are there approaching him in large numbers, and they will fall back to Zoan Church, halfway between Chancellorsville intersection and Fredericksburg, where they will take position and there begin to entrench. So now Lee is now convinced the people to the west of him are the danger. He can forget generally about the people below Fredericksburg. So Lee will issue orders to Jackson, Thomas Jonathan Jackson, to take his 3 divisions of his corps, which are camped near Prospect Hill, east and south of Fredericksburg. Jackson's headquarters being at the Corbin House, where if you saw that movie, which I fortunately did not see, Gods and Generals, you may remember the scene of Jackson with the little Corbin girl. Now, one of the reviewers, Bud Robertson, needless to say, is a great admirer of Jackson. And one of the reviewers is going to write the most devastating thing, and it's wonder Bud didn't have a stroke. He said when he saw the scenes of Jackson and the Corbin girl, the little Corbin girl, he thought Jackson might be a child molester.
Yeah, it's about time to go back to the bus to meet the bus.
Needless to say, Bud did not like that. Well, Lee's orders are, Jackson, have your men on the road at daybreak on the 1st and march west to the area of Zoan Church and take charge of the troops. take your 3 corps. That'll be the corps commanded by Ambrose Powell Hill, the corps commanded by Raleigh Colston, a colleague of Jackson. Jackson has a soft spot for friends, and Raleigh Colston had been on the faculty at BMI with him. Now, Colston may be a good professor of French, but if he's just because he teaches French, that doesn't make him a Bonaparte. So he's a rather weak figure. And the other one that he'll march west will be a person that is not yet a Major General, Robert Rhodes, a rising star. He will leave behind to hold all those Yankees that are still in front of Fredericksburg. He will leave Lee's bad old man, Jubal Anderson Early, a rather rough customer who Howard would detest. Being a God-fearing man, Early has 2 wives, but he's never married them. So that means he's living in sin. One is a black woman, the other is a white woman, so you can say he believes in integration. Children by both of them. Lee likes him though, and we refer to him as my bad old man. So he'll remain behind at Fredericksburg with his division and 2 brigades, Barksdale's Mississippians and Wilcox's Alabamians. Now Longstreet is gone, so you're not going to hear anything about Longstreet because he will not get here until the 9th day of May, and the campaign's over. So you won't have any Hood's men, you won't have any of Pickett's men here, because they will be with Longstreet. Longstreet has left 2 divisions behind, so Lee is in essence wearing 2 hats: commander of the Army of Northern Virginia and overseeing the 2 divisions Longstreet has left behind. The divisions commanded by Dick Anderson and the division commanded by Lafayette McLaws, which leaves Lee a little over 60,000 men to confront over 120,000 Yankees. Lee will arrive at Zoan Church around noon. But fortunately for them, Jackson marches at 2 in the morning. If he had marched at 5 at daybreak, the Battle of Chancellorsville would have gone much different. Jackson may have lived, but the Confederates would have probably lost the Battle of Chancellorsville. But Jackson starts early, and he'll be at Zoan Church just as the Union troops are approaching Zoan Church. And the Union are feeling good because they don't know Jackson's going to be there, because they're coming in overwhelming numbers. And Zoan Church is the only defensive position between Fredericksburg and Chancellorsville that the Confederates can use, where terrain will give them a good advantage. Any questions? So you can see where this drawing is made from. This drawing is made on May 2nd. So we are here, and this road, of course, coming in this way is the Ely's Ford Road. We're looking at the back side of the Chancellor House. The Chancellor House is brick. It grew like topsy from a small house, 2.5-story brick, with additions on both its east and west sides. We're looking at the back side of it. It fronted on the plank road and the turnpike. As you can see, they would be, you see the house here, they would be in front of the house. So we're the visitors. We're behind the house. So being General Meade, we arrive here a little after the noon hour on the 30th. We've got extensive areas of open ground. We have the road by which we arrive. It goes to Ely's Ford, and that road that has the heavy traffic, this is a 4-lane road now. Once it leaves that light, it is a gravel road, a macadamized road, and carries the traffic from both the plank road and the turnpike for 2.5 miles from here till it reaches Wilderness Tavern when it divides. The turnpike, the older road, staying closer to the rivers, and the plank road veering about 2 or 3 miles south of the turnpike, and they both come together when they reach Orange. Now, when they reach here, they're divided. The plank road is that road that goes south at the intersection. The one you don't see any traffic on now. So the plank road and the turnpike divorce here. The turnpike giving the straight shot where all the traffic is going that way into Fredericksburg. The plank road taking a loop to the south and joining the turnpike before they get to when they're near Salem Church. You have another road you do not see from the intersection, and you can and it will branch off the turnpike, as you can see on your maps, either the park map or the or map 1. That's the river road. It turns to the left. It's not a surface road and follows the river, paralleling the river into Fredericksburg.
Does it exist today?
Yes, it exists today. Now this gentleman has it, and it shows it right there. And if you wanted to drive it, you could do it today. It's a surface road. It has lots of sharp turns in it. So when Slocum arrives here, about an hour later, he and me meet right where we're standing here. The chancellors, the widow chancellor, and her 7 daughters are here. Some of them pretty good looking, some not. And they're going to stay at the house. When the fighting breaks out, they're going to be in the basement. When the house catches fire on the 3rd, they're still going to be in the basement. And some unthinking Union staff officer is going to slam the door into the basement, and someone is going to lock it. If somebody hears them pounding and will open, or Mrs. Chancellor and her 7 daughters and the number of slaves would have been asphyxiated. Because the fighting is going to engulf this house about 9:30 or 10 o'clock on the 3rd. The rest of the time, it's in a quiet zone. So when Meade and Slocum were here, they said, well, I didn't believe it. But it looks like Hooker has come up with a plan, and we're finally going to win a major battle. Then they'll talk as they wait for Hooker to show up. You know, they're going to say, why don't you take not the high road or the low road, I'll take the plank road, the road that goes to the right there at the light where that car is just disappearing, and you take the turnpike, and we'll be out of the wilderness in 2 miles. But they then get worried. Suppose something goes wrong, because we're supposed to wait for Hooker. Hooker will arrive about noon, about dusk, and they'll congratulate him. Besides his staff, he has a large retinue of newspaper men with him because he's like George S. Patton. He's good copy. He makes outrageous statements. And he was going to say, right, he stands here, he says, as of right now, the Army of Northern Virginia is where we want them. General Lee will have but two options now, and it is to come out of his defenses at Fredericksburg and meet us in ground of our choosing, or ingloriously flee. And poor old Howard, I can see him shrinking down. And then he will say, may God have mercy on General Lee, because I will certainly have none. The press write it all down. Here's a guy that isn't worried about General Lee, that doesn't lose his nerve or choke in the presence of General Lee as he gives them good copy. Because they're still in the wilderness. The wilderness is going to extend 2 miles beyond us. Now, the wilderness of Spotsylvania had once been good agricultural land, but since land is cheap, fertilizer is expensive, tobacco is very exhausting to the soil, so it was cheaper to clear new ground. And the old ground that they haven't fertilized will grow up in very scrub timber and second growth. So the wilderness of Spotsylvania extends southward from the Rapidan River about 7 miles. It's crossed east and west by 2 roads and the unfinished railroad grade. And it extends east and west 10 miles. And in this area, except for this area here, and the Telly farm, the farms are small and hard scrabble. The rest of the area grown up in second growth, and sometimes third growth, because there'd been bog iron here, and Catherine Furnace had operated smelting bog iron, which isn't good competitive, to 1845. And when you don't have a profitable furnace, you close it down. And what did you use in this furnace? You used wood. So much of the area might be even in third growth timber. So it's an area that favors the locals, an area that will favor the bold, an area that will favor the people that know it better than the others. And the Union are going to run into another. So the Union are going to have trouble in the wilderness of Spotsylvania, trouble at the Battle of Chancellorsville, where they're going to lose. And they're going to have trouble in the Battle of the Wilderness, which the Union is going to lose. The Union is going to win, because Grant doesn't pull back. But they're going to lose terrible casualties. In the Battle of the Wilderness in '64, the Union will lose 18,000 men in 2 days. This is a battle like Lee likes, because he's only going to lose 10,000 men in 2 days. In fact, the Battle of the Wilderness is bloodier for the Union than the Battle of Chancellorsville. the Union at Chancellorsville will lose 16,000 men. And Lee will lose 14,000 men. So if you're talking arithmetic, the Confederates do a hell of a lot better in the battle they tactically lose at Wilderness. If you talk about killing Yanks and having the mothers and the fathers, well, the mothers you don't worry about because they can't vote, and having the fathers of the people who die here go reading the casualty lists, they're probably going to be more stricken by the death toll at Wilderness, and the battles are fought almost on the same ground. One more thing before we get back aboard the bus. When Hancock arrives here on the 4th day of May, 1 year and 4 days. If you're a Yankee soldier, particularly if you've been drafted into the Army, or a bounty man, you see the Confederates didn't bury your men very deep. After the Battle of Chancellorsville, and they're going to see these grinning skulls that had belonged to live Union soldiers 1 year and 3 days before. So that somewhat makes them think a little bit as they go into the Wilderness the second time. So, all right, on the morning of the first, Hooker is ready to go out. And Lee is doing what Hooker says, one of his alternatives. Come out and fight us on ground of our own choosing, or ingloriously flee. Lee is going to come out and fight him on ground of Hooker's choosing. And Hooker will lose his nerve and go back into the Wilderness. So when Hooker leaves here, General Slocum is going to leave by way of the Plank Road. That's that road that goes that way. It will converge with the Turnpike about a mile beyond Zoan Church, where our next stop is. General Meade, I want you to send General Sykes' regular division, and you're going to advance down the Turnpike, Highway 3. Meade, you're going to take the other 2 divisions of your corps, and you're going by the river road. It comes out of here. The river road is the one that branches off and runs along the river. So they move out in 3 columns, looking for the enemy. And you feel pretty good if you're with Hancock, if you're with Sykes. Because 2 miles from here, you're going to be out in open country. Open country all the way to Fredericksburg. You're out of the accursed Wilderness. And then you're going to run into Zoan Church. You're going to run into the Confederates. And then you're going to start and talk. And Jackson, thanks to what he did, marching at 2 a.m. rather than daybreak, has arrived at Zoan Church. And Jackson decides we're not going to let them receive their attack. We're going to attack them. And then when they start attacking them, Hooker will lose his nerve and pull back into the Wilderness and give the initiative to Lee in an area of few roads. I'm going to stand over there because I'm going to represent the Confederates. I'm going to represent the Union. But I'm actually going to have more men. You people over here are going to be the Confederates. you'll have yourself oriented to how that red line is in map 1. So get over there, everybody, and face me. 5 miles in that direction is Fredericksburg. 4 miles in that direction is Chancellorsville. Here's the only significant high ground between Salem Church and Chancellorsville. When I say Chancellorsville, I mean the inn, our last stop. On the afternoon of the 30th, the 2 Confederate brigades who had been at Chancellorsville until the morning of the 30th, realizing with 3,000 men, their chances of stopping the 3 Union Corps converging on them is slim and none. As the old cliche says, slim and death town the day before. So they pull back to here, and they're going to entrench this ridge line. Coming in here, that road going off to the right, and the road that goes east and west, goes up and ties into the river road. Remember, Meade is advancing on the river road. The ridge line runs from southeast to northwest. And over there, the Confederate line crosses the Orange Plank Road. And they begin entrenching this line on the first high ground. Now, General Lee, when he orders Jackson to march at daybreak with 3 divisions, he's going to join Anderson and McLaws up here. Lee, Anderson, and McLaws would be reporting to Longstreet, but Longstreet is en route back from Southside Virginia, so they report directly to Lee. So Lee commands the Army, and he commands Anderson and McLaws' divisions, which total about 13,000 men. And they're entrenching this line. So what Lee is thinking about, fighting a defensive battle here. Entrenching along this ridge line and let the enemy attack him. Now Jackson arrives. Jackson takes the pulse of the situation and decides, I'm going to attack the enemy. Now, where is the enemy? We've got in front of us here General George Sykes with one of Meade's 3 divisions. It consists of 2 regular brigades, 1 volunteer brigade. Up there on the river road is General Meade moving with 2 more divisions, Griffin and Humphreys. But he's got a considerable distance. But you get down here, and over there, closing on Tabernacle Church, 3/4 of a mile is as the bird flies would be General Slocum with his 12th Corps. Jackson arrives at noon, Lee is not here, and Jackson decides to attack the enemy. Since Meade is moving on the river road, it'll take him several hours to get here. That means that Sykes is isolated. Slocum is not moving very fast. see the Confederate line runs in that direction. So Jackson realizes I'm going to attack this isolated Union division, Sykes. So he's going to tell A.P. Hill, I want you to attack those Yankees to your front. And that's what Jackson is going to do. So his 3 divisions outnumber Slocum's 4. Also, Jackson knows something else. He knows about the unfinished railroad grade. As you can see, if now you go switching, so as they fall back, there are now big arguments back at Chancellorsville. General Couch, an aggressive fellow, General Hancock said, we can't let them seize the high ground. Why don't you order a counter? Order me out. So Hancock comes out, and we're going to meet him at our second stop from here. When he encounters the enemy, and Hooker has lost his nerve, and repeats his orders, pull back into the wilderness, and Hooker has just given the initiative to Robert E. Lee. He's now on the scene, and Robert E. Lee is a riverboat gambler. You let him off the hook. And now he is going to call the shots. And you're going to have to respond to what General Lee is doing. And we're going to find out when Jackson does his flanking march, Hooker then believes that other thing. Remember? Come out and meet us on ground of our choosing, or ingloriously flee. And you're going to notice when we're doing Jackson's flank march, beginning before lunch and ending about 2 o'clock when Jackson attacks. For 2/3 of that distance, Jackson will be moving south and west. And to Hooker, that means he's ingloriously fleeing. So Hooker takes little, so things are again going the way he wants. He orders Sickles in pursuit of Jackson's column as an ingloriously fleeing, and they forget and don't keep the track on Jackson because all the Union cavalry, except one brigade, has been sent on that raid with General Stoneman, which is now striking the railroads north of Richmond, and not where they can be a big help to the Union by letting them know what the Confederates are doing. Because Lee has kept most of his cavalry here. And Jeb Stuart is tracking what the Union are doing. The Union cavalry is most of them off on a raid now, which would have been invaluable if it had happened at the end of the second week of April. But the gods of war, the God of man, has frustrated them when you get heavy rains and they have to scrub, and then delay the Slocum raid and make it taking place coincident with the advance of the infantry, so the Union are short of cavalry to track what the enemy is doing. Any questions? General Jackson, when he arrives, decides to boldly seize the initiative. And he's going to focus on General Sykes. Sykes has advanced further and faster, so he is isolated. As you look on your map, you're going to see that General Slocum is nowhere around. to cover Sykes's left. Sykes's right. General Meade isn't even on the map. He's so far out of the area, off in that direction. So Jackson, by his bold decision, is going to concentrate overwhelming numbers on General Sykes. And what he's going to do, he's going to have General Hill move against General Slocum. And you can see Slocum is pulling back. Off your map would be the unfinished railroad grade, which is parallel to the Orange Turnpike, the Orange Plank Road, and about 400 yards south of us. And that's what I say they do. They put General Wright out there, and Longstreet probably has it right. Because Wright is, think of Slocum as the Virgin, in Longstreet's remark. With the Confederates on their flank, they're going to be just like a virgin with a man's hand on her thigh. And Sykes, and you can see Slocum when he pulls back. What does that do? That leaves poor old Sykes in a bad way, because deploying along the, they've been marching along the Plank Road from east to west, and Robert Rhodes Hulse's division, and what is he going to do? He's going to strike Sykes in front. Well, these other men are hitting him in the rear, he's going to strike Sykes in the flank, and you can see these two brigades here of McLaws are hitting him in front. Hooker gets nervous, because it now looks like he's going to lose a division of troops, 5,000 men, who have been caught out here with Slocum retreating, Meade not in a position to support them, and he's going to give up this open ground. This open ground, which he believed once he got the enemy in the open ground, he could defeat General Lee without much difficulty. But he is now yielding the open ground. When he gets back to Furnace Road, which appears on your map, if you're looking at the map, I think you can see Furnace Road going off through here. That Furnace Road.
Right here.
Yep. When you go, Furnace Road is on high ground. The Union should have stopped on Furnace Road, because they have the high ground again. But when they yield Furnace Road, it gives the Confederates the high ground. And the Union are going to have to fall back to within less than a half a mile of the Chancellorsville intersection. And General Hooker is now going to order his men to entrench. He's giving up the offensive, going on the defensive, and entrenching his new position, which is going to have to cover the Chancellorsville crossroads. And that means throughout the night of the 1st, if you're a Confederate, you can hear the thud of axes. That means that the Union are throwing up breastworks of logs. And Lee knows, as a matter of fact, Lee knows it would be suicidal to attack a force that outnumbers them almost 2 to 1 when they're behind fortifications, because that would destroy his army. And that's when he's going to decide, with the information available on our next to last stop this morning, to send Jackson on his last and greatest flanking march, which is going to cost Jackson his life.